What's up, Nom Noms? For this week's video, we are going to be making Land God's Gift from the video game Horizon Forbidden West. If you played the game, you're probably guessing correctly that this is an Utaru dish. The game describes Land God's Gift as fried wheat slices topped with a slightly spicy bitter leaf and bean stew. To replicate this dish, we will be making baked tortilla chips topped with spicy kale, peppers, pepper jack, cheese, and delicious green enchilada sauce. Let's dig in. Before we make this dish in real life, I thought I'd take a look at how to get the dish in the game and whether or not the benefits are actually worth it.
Alright, so we are going to fast travel to Plainsong so that we can go and talk to the cook to get our dish. And once again, the fast travel point puts us about as far away from the cook as possible. So we are just going to skip this bit. Otherwise, we're just going to waste a bunch of time watching me run. And now that we are closer to the cook, let's go ahead and pull up this dish. Alright, so here's Land God's Gift. This is what we're going to be making. And if you look over at the costs, we need 5 wild beans, 2 bitter leaf, and 3 deep water kindle weed oil. Let's go ahead and make that a job and make that our active quest. Okay, so our kindle weed oil is pretty close by, and so are the wild beans. However, the bitter leaf seems to be miles and miles away in a really remote location, which is pretty weird. I'm pretty sure you could get that closer, but whatever. We'll just follow what the game says to do. All right, let's start with our kindle weed oil. Okay, so kindle weed oil is located underwater. So let's grab our kindle weed oil. Bloop. Bloop. Okay, and now let's go grab our wild beans. You should remember from my previous video that wild beans are also basically everywhere on the side of the road, so we'll get those pretty quickly. See, I didn't even have to walk where it told me to walk. It's literally just a couple steps away. Now that we have the wild beans, we're going to travel a ridiculously far distance away to get the bitter leaf. I'm pretty sure that we could really travel anywhere over here and be able to get the bitter leaf, but whatever, let's just do what the game tells us to do. Okay, so you've got to run pretty far from the nearest campfire to even get to the place it tells you, which is kind of ridiculous. Let's speed that up. And there we have it. There's some bitter leaf, and now it is back to the cook. All right, let's buy our Land God's Gift. Perfect. Okay, so the Land God's Gift should boost weapon stamina plus by 2 levels for 4.5 minutes. Luckily, this is a pretty easy one to test. I'm going to use the weapon stamina ability that allows you to knock multiple arrows to your bow, and we're just going to compare how many times I can use that ability with the food and without the food. So to start, we're going to do it without the food. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we got about 4.5 since that last one only let me knock 1 additional arrow. And now we're going to test this again and see how it works after I eat the Land God's Gift. Okay, so I just ate the Land God's Gift. And actually, if we pause this really quickly, you can already tell just with the visual indicator at the bottom that my weapon stamina is increased. Okay, so now we're gonna actually do the shooting test. Let's see how many arrows I can get off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 6.5. So again, I could only do about 1 additional arrow, but 6.5 beats 4.5, so I'm going to call this a successful dish. Gets an A. It does exactly what it says it is going to do.
Alright, so we saw how this played out in the game, and now I'm really excited to bring this dish to you in real life. It is going to be delicious.
Alright, so step 1 is preheating our oven to 450 degrees. While that's warming up, you are going to stack the tortillas and cut into 8 triangles. So I've got 8 flour tortillas right here, and I'm just gonna slice these nicely and get ourselves some triangles. Once you've got your triangles cut, we're gonna put them onto our baking sheet. You can tear these too if you want, you don't have to cut them. I honestly think it's easier to cut them because I can't eyeball things all that well. You can use corn tortillas for this as well. I actually prefer the corn tortillas, but for authenticity's sake, since this is wheat slices, I decided to use flour instead of corn. But corn tortillas work just as well, maybe even better than flour tortillas for this dish. Once they're on the baking sheet, you're going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil and some salt and pepper, about a pinch of each. And you're just gonna toss those so that everything's nicely coated. All right, so those are gonna go into our 450-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, maybe stirring once or twice while they're cooking. You're looking for them to get nice and brown, not burnt, just a nice light brown on the outside. While the tortillas are in the oven, you're going to heat the remaining 1 tablespoon of olive oil in a large oven-proof non-stick skillet over medium-high heat. Once that is hot, you're going to add 1 bunch of kale roughly chopped, as well as 1 can of kidney beans. You're gonna wanna drain those beans first and make sure you've rinsed them as well. You're gonna wanna cook this for about 10 to 15 minutes. You're trying to get the kale to wilt. If things are starting to stick to the bottom of the pan, you can just add a little bit of water in. It should free everything up. All right, so our tortilla chips are looking pretty good. A couple of them are probably a little bit darker than I'd like, but that's okay. We can always just eat those ourselves. Once the kale looks wilty, you're going to add 1 4-ounce can of diced green chilies. You'll also want to add 2 cloves of garlic, finely chopped, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, and 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. Season with salt and pepper. All right, you're going to stir everything together. And you're really just looking for everything to get coated, so this shouldn't take anything longer than 2 minutes. Once everything looks like it's combined, go ahead and turn off the heat and add 2 10-ounce cans of green enchilada sauce. 1, 2, and then you're going to go ahead and add those tortilla chips. And if any of them are kind of burnt, again, you don't need to add them to this mix. Okay, so we're going to stir those in. And then last but not least, we're going to add in half of our pepper jack cheese. So I've got 4 ounces of pepper jack cheese that I've cubed, but you can certainly grate it. And I've added half of that into this mix. I'm going to try and stir it all up as best as I can. Once you've got everything combined, you're going to take the remaining cheese and just sprinkle that on top. Okay, so that goes into the oven. Again, it's still set at 450, and you're going to cook that for about 10 minutes. You're looking for the cheese to be bubbly on the top. And that's the finished product. You can see that the cheese has melted, the tortillas are still crispy, everything's kind of mixed and combined.
All right, let's see if we actually made our bitter leaf, aka the kale, taste any good. Get a good bite here. Whew. You can't actually tell that this is kale. There's enough stuff going on that it masks how gross I actually think kale is. You can't tell that it's bug spray. It actually tastes good, and I feel good eating it because I know it's good for me. So this is quite tasty indeed. Go us. Well, that was a surprisingly good dish in the game and in real life. Isn't that great? We will probably be cooking up what is our last Utaru dish next week, so be sure to hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss it. See you next week when we dig into sour fruit tart.